the acquisition of Araris by Taiho earlier this year. It's 400 million upfront for preclinical is quite sizable.
It was one of the largest preclinical deals ever.
I'm curious on the repeat entrepreneur thing, because in theory it's easier to do it again, but in practice it's also really hard.
And it's always a roller coaster with many highs and many lows, and that's part of the game. Some people say yes, some people say no, you don't take it personally, you just move on. It also has evolved over the past 20 years or so in Switzerland. Everything has been more professionalized, the support, entrepreneurial thinking. If I see pitches now of really young talents, PhDs, postdocs, they are really good.
Bienvenue to a new episode. I'm your host Philip, and on this show I'm interviewing the best Europeans in biotech to help you grow. Antibody-drug conjugates, or ADCs, could replace chemotherapy in the next 10 years. However, there are still many challenges. Araris is one of the leading ADC biotech in Europe. Its platform is bringing speed of development as well as better safety and efficacy. So I went to the shore of the Zurich lake to meet with the founder, Dragan. I knew him for his first exit when I met him in Zurich, I believe almost 10 years ago, I think 2017, which time flies. We talked about the recent acquisition of Araris by Japanese pharmaceutical company Taiho, part of Otsuka. We also talked about Dragan's strong track record in building and exiting biotechs, as well as the future of ADCs. So here's my conversation with Dragan, and please hit the like or follow button if you're enjoying it. Cool. So welcome to the show, Dragan.
Hi, Philip. Thanks for having me here. Welcome to Switzerland.
Cool. I mean, Lake View.
It's not so bad, right?
Not too bad. It's cool. So, I want to start with the acquisition of Araris by Taiho. I think it was earlier this year. It's, I think, completed or close to be completed.
It's completed.
It's completed? Okay, that's great. And it was $400 million upfront, I think $740 million in milestones. I'm curious to start with what's the story behind the deal? How did the deal come about?
Yes. So we started Araris in 2019. I'm happy to give you more information there. And in essence, we had a collaboration back in 2023 with Taiho. So this was the first business relationship with Taiho Pharma, where they could get access to our platform. They could make ADCs together with us. So it was a collaboration. And probably that was the starting point, which then culminated, as you said, in the acquisition in March, so 6 months ago.
Okay. And what triggered the acquisition? They were so blown away by the technology, or what's the...
I mean, for me, it's probably you also have to ask Taiho, but I mean, we like our technology and our product candidates, indeed. And as you know, I mean, ADCs, and jokes aside, so ADCs have a true potential, as we all know, to really... change the treatment paradigm in oncology as a general. So, and probably that's why the whole industry is working on ADCs, and so is Taiho. And it seems that they liked our platform and candidates, yes.
Yeah, good. So I will continue on Araris in the industry. One thing that I'm also curious in what struck me is that we met the first time, we just discussed before the recording, I think it was just after you did the Covagen, your exit, basically. And now you basically have done 2 exits in the $100+ million, which is pretty rare in Europe, I think, and in Switzerland for sure, in Europe also quite rare. I'm just curious if you could, first tell a bit the story of Covagen and how did you go to the exit, and then I have a few more questions on this.
Let's start in 2007. No, it's really incredible. I sometimes hardly believe what just happened also. So yes, I was fortunate enough to co-found Covagen as a PhD student. This was really in 2007. We were 2 people together with Julian Bertschinger. We grew Covagen to about 35 people in 2014. And then in 2014, there was a competitive bidding process where then J&J made the race and acquired Covagen, and this was in 2014. So this probably shaped my knowledge, my experience, because I was fortunate enough to see everything from start with the seed fund, seed financing round, then growing the company, closing deals with Roche and Mitsubishi Tanabe, scaling the company.
How many Japanese deals?
Yeah, also Roche and Mitsubishi, yes. And so seeing the whole journey was a unique experience, and probably I could profit then later also with Araris from this experience. And even in between the exit of Covagen, I mean, then I stayed and worked a bit for J&J. And I became a consultant to venture capital companies, which made two things with me. So one is I stayed up to date with the science, because you see many proposals as an advisor to venture capitalists. And also I still learn, how VCs look into biotech companies and what they want to see, what triggers the yes or no answer, because the yes is very rare. They see so many proposals. Usually they say no. So I also could learn a lot there again, and then co-founding Araris in 2019.
Yeah, that's cool. A lot of things I want to jump on. I'm curious on now that you've had the 2 exits on the belt, what are some of the things you're looking at differently?
How do you mean that?
I don't know. After the first exit, you say, okay, I've seen the whole journey, I've learned a lot. Now that you have 2 exits, what are some of the lessons or additional lessons?
Yeah, I mean, that every deal is different, unfortunately. You cannot know it all. You still have to learn and adapt. And it's really, the circumstances are different, the time is different, the financial environment is different, pharmaceutical companies evolve, the whole field evolves. So, and Covagen was more in the bispecific but inflammatory diseases, even though we also had oncology projects, and now this was an oncology play. So many things are different, but you just adapt, learn every day.
I'm curious on the repeat entrepreneur thing, because in theory it's easier to do it again, but in practice it's also really hard. And as you said, it's all different, and you have different set of challenges. And I can see it a bit with myself. I did 1 exit, and now starting a second company, it's as hard, I find it, if not harder on some points are easier. How was it for you?
Biotech journey is a roller coaster all the time. And I have been advising also companies, so not only these 2, so I had insights in many other, and it's always a roller coaster with many highs and many lows. And that's part of the game, and what also makes it very interesting.
It's part of the fun, I guess.
Yes. But
that's good. On that topic, I'm curious. You are, as you said, consultant between. What made you and I think Araris, when you start, you were not CEO at the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. What made you go back into CEO role and actually operational versus a bit more hand off?
Yes, when we co-founded Araris, I was the chairman and board member, but still operational 1 to 2 days, and I simply could not jump in full time because I had other commitments. Which when I say yes to something, then I stick to it until there is a complete story. So I could not, even if I wanted to. There was no opportunity.
Okay.
And then and Araris evolved, perfectly, right? We had a seed financing round of 15.5 million in 2020 when COVID hit. And this was probably unheard of also in the Swiss environment for a seed. It's quite, we were happy because it allows you really to make.
Well, it depends how you count. How you name seed versus Series A. But I think if it's a real seed just after,
just
academic word.
And that's why we could really work and achieve milestones.
Yeah.
And the data were so good that in 2022, 23, then we all together, because I have seen the scaling with Covagen, we all decided then, and that was a good moment in time also for me to really take on the CEO role.
Okay. Yeah. Alex, yeah. That's good. Yeah. And then, okay, yeah, that's good. Need to challenge you on this, but also, I'm curious also on like, because one thing I hear quite a lot, even on the show from some VCs, is that they love biotech entrepreneurs who have made it and who go back into it again, and so you're more backable. I guess you felt that as well, like with Araris, even if you were not CEO, you were in the founding team, I guess.
Yes, yes, usually I think this is probably natural that you think that this person who has done it is more credible.
We'll do it again.
Yes, he does it. At least, I mean, you know it also yourself when you start driving for the first time. Of course, you know maybe all the rules and stuff, but you don't have this experience that somebody who drove since 20 years, which probably doesn't know all the rules still.
Break the rules as well.
So I think it's this type of thinking which is understandable to a certain point. Which I also felt, yes. And also probably if you have done it, you're then also more relaxed. You know that some people say yes, some people say no. You don't take it personally. You just move on. You adapt. You if needed, and you just go on.
Okay, yeah, that's good. So Araris on the story. Actually, the last time I heard about you guys is actually not the exit, is on the Strongman Award, which was awarded to you. Which was I was a bit curious because the Strongman normally is more like early stage companies, and then now it was an exited company. Like how did it come about? I mean, is it like?
I mean, the Strongman Award, the founders, so the three of us, we were the three founders, Philip, Isabella, and myself, we got this prize, which we're very happy about. And the Strongman Award acknowledges entrepreneurial excellence, if you want to. And obviously the jury felt that the three of us, how we managed to found Araris and also do this whole journey and then the exit. We were very convincing. So
that's good. And the Strongman for the audience as well as the two founders, I think, who exited Hexal, I think, for I don't remember how much, 5 billion something, which was I think a family-owned company. And now they invested with a family office into many successful biotechs, including BioNTech and a few others. And now it's a price. They started the price. I think it's the second year they did it.
Yes.
That's good. And maybe so, Araris, you said one thing which is also, I mean, quite surprising is that you started really from scratch as well with the technology from the Paul Schar Institute or connected to the ETH. And Philip, I think, is one of the scientists. Can you talk a bit about the story of how did this whole founding came about? How did they decided to spin out or spin off? Yeah.
Yes. So also Philip, as you said, so he was a postdoc at the Paul Schar Institute, which belongs to the ETH domain here in Switzerland, and he also had from the very beginning this entrepreneurial mindset because he applied for the so-called Founder Fellowship. This is an initiative of the PSI, the Paul Schar Institute, in order to explore the interest both from investors and the pharmaceutical industry on his technology, on his platform. So he had this wish and entrepreneurial thinking from the very start.
Yeah.
And this was a time when we met. So he was doing interviews. He approached many people from the industry.
Yeah.
And when I saw his platform, I was really amazed and intrigued. And I saw immediately the potential of his conjugation and linker technology in the ADC field. so then we rather quickly talked about potential co-founding, possible co-founding at that time. And that was also the time when Isabella, the third co-founder of Araris, she was living in Canada with her family, and she was about to move back to Switzerland. So she also approached me by pure coincidence, and she said, "Oh, Dragan, we want to come back to Switzerland. You see so many biotechs. Is there something interesting?" No joke. And then I say, "Yes. I want you to be a co-founder with me."
Okay, crazy.
And she was not believing it first, but then I made the intro to Philip. They met as well. And this is how it evolved, that the three of us, we met and saw the potential. And we were retrospectively courageous enough to just found without knowing whether we would get a license from the academia. At what terms? We didn't have any clue. There was a lot of unknowns, but we were so convinced that it will work. So we just decided, okay, let's co-found together.
Like that. I will talk about the terms because on a bit later, but on the and so Isabella didn't bring the technology. She joined as a founder team, but the technology was from Philip, basically.
Yes. But we have just three really complementary skills. The three of us. That's why I approached her immediately when she asked about new opportunities. Yeah. I thought that this could work together.
Yeah, it's good. And on the technology itself, because I looked into it. For my understanding is that, it's basically a linker technology, but you can attach the payloads to kind of any type of antibodies or any like natural antibody with a pretty high quality, pretty high payload. So can you tell a bit more on the technology? Maybe, where it is today compared to when you found it then?
Yes, it was also an evolution. Yeah, but so the advantages of our platform are multifold. So from the very beginning, we tried to address the limitations of existing ADC technologies and products. And so first, Philip has developed a platform that allows the conjugation of payloads without the need of prior antibody engineering. So you can take any antibody off the shelf as they are. Yeah. And then you can attach something. Yeah. And I felt in the beginning was a huge advantage because, as we all know, many pharmaceutical companies have a lot of antibodies in their drawers, which as a naked antibody might be suboptimal or didn't deliver on the promise. So turning them into an ADC would be beneficial, maybe. Yeah. And then you don't need to engineer, in case a pharmaceutical company has already a cell line, which is costly, then you don't want to change again something on the antibody and then make it
actually mean.
Yeah. So this is one component. Yeah. Then the second one is if you make an ADC with this platform, the resulting ADC has really favorable properties in terms of pharmacokinetics, stability, aggregation, which are very important topics in the ADC field. And also, more importantly, a higher efficacy and better tolerability than comparable ADCs made with other technologies. And then probably the most important advantage or part is if you look at conventional chemotherapy, it's always a combination of different toxins. Yeah. And if you look at the currently marketed ADCs, they carry just one payload class. Yeah. And with Philip, with our platform, we can attach several different payload classes, mimicking conventional therapy, but delivering them in a targeted fashion. And that's really we are doing here pioneering work, and others also have started in the meantime to do this because, again, knowing from the experience with conventional chemotherapy, you have to attack the tumor
combination, basically.
Yes.
Inside. Okay, so instead of
the multi-payload approach, which also triggered a lot of interest, and we see this as a game changing and has a lot of potential.
Yeah. Okay. And why would you just not use like several, let's say if you take a HER2 antibody with different payloads, why would you nurse like combine several antibodies versus putting the payload on the same ADC?
Yes, this has several disadvantages. If you combine it, then they would go after the same target, and then they would compete.
Okay.
And then certain cells will only see one payload, others the other one, and only rarely both together.
Okay.
And then it's also cost of goods, which ratio. Whereas if you have one clean product, it's always preferred.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. One thing from my understanding also in ADC, what's super important is the what is it, the index, the amount of payload.
Drug to antibody ratio.
Yeah, the drug. Yeah. And from my understanding, that some are much better. I think Daiichi has a technology where they can be much higher than others, from my understanding. Is that correct? And how do you compare to, let's say, the standard, let's say Daiichi to the top? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, the drug to antibody ratio is indeed a very important topic in the ADC field. And also here, in our experience, there is no rule. I think for every indication, for every antibody, in the end, you need to find the optimal therapeutic index, meaning what about the efficacy compared to tolerability or toxicity. And this you can achieve either by dosing and different means, and the drug to antibody ratio. So in our view, you have to empirically test and then choose the best that works for this indication. But there is no guarantee that if you found something for one indication, that you can just copy this same approach for another indication and it would deliver the same good results. So it's, I think still it has to be found out empirically. And this is what many companies do, in my understanding. Okay,
it's a bit more custom to the disease than...
Yes. Unfortunately, there's no recipe.
That's what you do. Yeah, okay. As everything in biotech, it's never that straightforward. Okay, and then because I think one challenge with a lot of companies who have a platform with a technology like this is always like, how much is this platform worth, and then what's the asset, and how do you select the asset? From my understanding, you in preclinical. Can you talk a bit more on like the current asset or the lead assets, and how did you select them? Yeah.
Yes, so we are currently working on the 3 ADCs to bring them to the clinic as quickly as possible. So they are in preclinical or IND-enabling studies stage, preclinical. And then we have a pipeline of several more earlier stage ADC compounds. And the 3 assets, they are both, it's a mix of indications in the hem-onc or hematolo-oncology field and solid tumors. And the first one, it's CD79B ADC for different types of lymphomas. And we anticipate to go to the clinics early next year.
Yeah, okay.
And the 2 other ones then later next year as well.
Yeah. Okay.
But we are preclinical stage.
Yeah. Which we have joked about, but it's 400 million upfront for preclinical is quite sizable.
Yes, if you look at also in the history, and it was one of the largest preclinical deals ever.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you said for 16 employees, it's even...
Yes,
it's really high. And I'm curious because on the platform, I mean, in theory, your platform, you could makes me think about whatever, at the end, your platform, you could apply it to many ADCs versus going into your own assets. But I guess you capture less value as well.
Yes.
So,
yeah. At the end, also, this is my experience. The pharmaceutical industry is looking, to fill their own pipeline with products. Yeah. And that's very important, in my view, even if you started as a platform company, that you develop as early as possible your own products.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good lesson, I think. And for anyone watching, especially for academics, I think if you have a technology like this, you would think, I just license the technology to many people, but assets are still what matters. Especially, I think the asset is, again, I'm thinking, also a bit from my experience, but the asset is is also validation of the platform.
Exactly.
And then you need which is not easy.
Very well said.
Yeah. Which is not easy to find the assets.
Yes.
Like, 'cause I mean, we talked a bit just before hitting record, but I worked a bit with Molecular Partners, and I mean, they had an amazing platform, and there was like many patients, and they even had assets that went through phase 3, but it was really not easy for them also to find not just the right asset, but the right target, the right indication, differentiate there. I mean,
That's the toughest part.
it's
I agree.
it's tough. So how did you, and especially how did you manage? Because especially in ADC, and I guess when you started, it was maybe a bit less crowded, but still was already like quite crowded. Especially in some of the, in some of the oncology indication you're going after, it's like it starts to have a lot. So how did you find the right indication? How the differentiation?
Yes, this is a process, because this is really the one of the most difficult tasks as a small biotech. And also here, what really helps is to go out to really find out what are the limitations in current treatments for a certain indication. Because of course, you are competing also against other ADCs, but that's not the end. You're competing against small molecules, antibodies, bispecific, against everything that is out there for this indication.
Yeah.
So you need to take a holistic approach. And what you have to do is then you talk really to many people who know the field, to find out, are there any limitations? And if yes, can you address those with your platform? And then do you have the capabilities? Because sometimes you find very nice limitations where you can go after, but then you found out that with your capabilities and the small team, it's simply not possible. Then you have to focus on other things. But it's a stepwise approach and always evolving and always questioning. Are we on the right path?
Yeah. And I guess also when you want to compete, if a big pharma is already on something, especially when they are advancing, they can move once they're decided, they can move quite fast, and it's really hard to compete with a big pharma who is already.
It has pros and cons, even because on one hand, it gives you validation that you are working on something interesting, potentially, but in the end, yes, you have to see whether you're just a me too of that, or whether you are superior.
Yeah, I've seen a few examples. It makes me think even, again, Molecular Partners, because they were in multiple myeloma or AML, and was just the space was so complicated, as you said, not just antibodies, but and then even the cell therapy, and then you really need crazy results, crazy overall survival rate.
Why do people start biotechs?
At the end, but when you find the right one, then you have it. I'm curious also on the fit with Taiho, because I didn't know them that well before seeing the deal. How was it complementary? Was their approach? How did it fit it together?
Yes, I think it's a very good fit, because Taiho is fully dedicated to oncology.
Yeah.
So it's a subsidiary of Otsuka.
Okay.
And Taiho is fully focused on oncology.
Yeah. Okay.
They have products, small molecule products, and as mentioned, as the whole industry, ADCs may really change and have started actually to change the treatment paradigms.
Yeah.
And so this was a perfect match in my view.
Okay, yeah, that's good. It's a good also transition to ADCs a bit in general. I think what's pretty crazy with ADCs, at least in my opinion, is it has been under development for whatever 30 decades, 40 years, and at the beginning it didn't work well.
Yes.
and now it took off like crazy. I mean, in the last 10 years, some stats, but I think it's something like now it's whatever 19 or 20 approved ADCs on the market right now.
Not yet, but you're
okay. Also in this
range.
Ballpark, in this range, the ADC market is also in the by 2030, but now I think it's in the tens of billions in revenues.
Yeah.
So how do you look at it? Like, How do you look at it? What were some of the things that impressed you? Some of the big milestones, like?
Yes, indeed. I mean, as you said, I think the idea of bringing something toxic to the site of disease and spare the rest of the disease idea was born essentially with when the first antibodies were born, right? And unfortunately, in the early 2000s, then was a lot of hope already then, and then a lot of failures, and with ups and downs. So, and also in 2019, when we founded Araris, many people were, oh no, again ADC, no, you will never make. Oh, this is not so.
It was a bit the early years, and when the big hype for ADC.
Yes, it was. Yes,
it was a few years before.
Yeah, and but we again. We saw the potential, and I really thought that with this stable linkage and everything, we were not even thinking about this multi-payload approach at the start, because you need to validate first a couple of things, step by step. And luckily, I think, with you mentioned Daiichi before. I mean, Daiichi then made a gold standard for the treatment of HER2 positive breast cancer. Yeah. And with other approvals, with still rather early technologies, but they found this therapeutic index that I was talking before for certain indications, so that they could get approval and help the patients. And that gave, I think, a boost to the whole industry, and also we saw an increased interest just by this fact. And now these platforms, they are developing further, and I see this trend going on. One thing is where we are pioneering the field in this multi-payload approach. And then others are bispecific ADCs, multi-specific ADCs, and continuously trying to address the limitations of existing therapeutics.
And what do you, and what do you see as some of the main limitations? I mean, except what you are solving, but in the space, I
mean, still the main limitations is tolerability. Still today, if you look at the ADCs, you probably cannot dose as high as you wanted to, because you're applying still in the end a lot of toxin, and this is where a lot of innovation is happening and will continue to happen.
Okay. And I guess to solve it, you have different ways to solve it, and it's
all about the specificity and bringing as much payload to the tumor and spare the rest of the body.
And I guess also using the right payload or different type of payload. Now it's coming back, Robin from Myrix, which was one of the last episodes in London, and they have a new type of payload, which is also quite rare in ADCs.
Yes.
I think the topo one, I don't know how many hundreds are using it, but then...
Yes, exactly, yes. Yeah. And also a lot of happened also. So I think the evolution happened on all three aspects. An ADC has three parts: antibody, linker, the payload. And you can play around on all three components, and a lot of things were improved on the antibody side, right, since also decades. Then with linkers, Philip, we, and others, are constantly improving on those aspects. And also payloads, the making MME work. These were the early ADCs. Then now the whole topo avalanche, and still, pharmaceutical industry is looking for novel payloads.
Yeah. That's good. And so one thing that also, or one thing I saw with ADC is also kind of a drug resistance, or the tumor resistance. How much is that a challenge?
Yeah, this is a huge challenge. This is what prompted us, or to make this multi-payload approach, because it's known from the clinic, like with a conventional chemotherapy.
Yeah.
If you apply one payload class, over time, unfortunately, certain tumor cells will survive by mutations or pumps, and then they will outgrow again. So you need to attack the tumor from different angles, different modes of action. And that prompted us to make this multi-payload ADCs.
Okay, so it's not just to, from the scratch, be more potent. It's also
You
over
reduce the
time,
resistance, yeah.
you reduce the resistance. Okay, I like that. Yeah. And talking, just stay on ADCs a bit on the some of the deals. I mean, you said in preclinical you are one of the biggest deals. I think not just ADC, but even on non-ADCs. I remember seeing some of the crazy deals. Like what was it? Daiichi was Merck, right? It was Daiichi. Was Astra, like some crazy numbers, like what was it, 4 billion upfront or something? What are the biggest deals that you have seen or that are kind of that struck you?
I mean, also Immunomedics and Gilead was a big deal.
How much was it?
20 something.
Oh, okay.
Billion. And also
and Seagen, Pfizer, I guess.
Seagen, Pfizer, AbbVie, Immunogen.
Yeah.
So big deals.
Big deal. Big deals. Yeah.
But I mean, of course, we see these numbers, but I think you can be sure that many people looked at those numbers to identify whether they are justified or not in this context. As the price, I mean, it's a difficult. I think it's a science on its own to define a price. Yes, the art. It's you work with different models, and depending on the models, you can also be of the opinion that they are very justified.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what we just said also, when you see the sales numbers already, some of the sales, I guess the anticipation is big.
This is what I was heading to.
Yeah. And the sales model over there. Yeah, I mean the valuations. Yeah, I mean it's. I guess even for you guys, I mean there's a science, and you can use whatever models and net present value and whatever.
Yes.
But there's also a bit of timing, competition, a bit of feeding art, human chemistry, which is a...
Yeah. A lot of things need to happen all together that the deal happens. Yeah, that's why it's so rare.
Yeah. I like, even for the audience, what I quite like to do is looking at, especially when it's public companies and when there's acquisition happening, especially with acquisition more than with deals, but even with deals, then when they are publicly listed, you see the filings. And then in the filings, they have to details, like they have to put everything, and you can see like the bidding offer, you can see the meetings happening and who talked to whom at JPM, and then they made a first offer, and then whatever, there's competition, and then the bid doubled overnight. I mean, over a few weeks, the bid doubled. I mean, the sales target is the same, but the deal sometimes it's curious. Yeah, it's I mean, for people who are curious, you can dig into this as well. Yeah. But I guess for you guys, Otsuka, I don't know. It's publicly listed, Otsuka? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess there's some details also published on the deal itself.
I haven't looked at it. I listened to the journalists, yeah.
I will check my Japanese. And how is it to work with a Japanese company? You said with Mitsubishi before, and now with Taiho or Otsuka. Because I've heard it's quite like special, like in terms of working culture. It's quite, that's a unique.
Yes, it's
not good and bad, but different.
Yeah, exactly. So the Japanese are different than the Swiss, and the Swiss are different than the Germans and the French, and so this is. I think if you work in a global environment, you need to deal with different cultures, different types of work. But I realized that there are also quite some similarities between by all differences that there are, but there are also some similarities between the Japanese culture and the Swiss. Now, this calmness and
attention to details.
Attention, to details and careful thinking before you speak. So there are also quite some nice similarities that we're working on.
Do you have some stories or some example? I mean, some stories on that or some examples, or if you can share. I don't know, like.
I need probably to think about, because we also had investors from all over, from Asia, from Europe, from United States. So probably you have stories to every culture.
Yeah.
But what is important, I think also maybe for the audience, the face-to-face meeting and building trust. I think this is very important to the Japanese, and I think, but also to me, if I reflect, if I see somebody in person and then you can build mutual trust, I think this could be a very strong basis to something bigger. But this is something that stands out. Yeah.
Okay. I heard this trust that in Japan they take it to another level. Like, I don't know where I read this, that like before discussing any kind of business terms, you have sometimes they bring you for an entire day. The example was something like that. Bring you to play golf somewhere, and then you for the entire day you just build a human connection, and then you give a lot of gifts and kind of like you build the trust, and then you can start
then the hospitality, and this is amazing. I can.
You prefer this? And I love Japan as well. And I mean, I haven't worked too much with Japanese, but at least even from the culture, and at least visiting is amazing. I'm curious also on if you look at, you said like ADCs, you have to compete with others, like other bispecific mAbs, whatever. Like, how do you look at it? Like, how do you look at the competition? Is it like ADC will replace some of the others, or is it just depending on the indication? Like, for example, in breast cancer, ADCs will work better. In some others, let's say hematology, whatever, CAR-T will work very well. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, the vision is indeed. So there are several aspects or why we also started, and why I was all in with Araris when deciding, do I want to co-found or not. The vision is really to replace at least chemotherapy, because this is really an awful treatment, and I think even 40 years ago, when the whole idea was born, was from the very beginning, that's the hope, that ADCs can, to a certain extent, replace chemotherapy. Yeah. You mentioned also other modalities, MAPs, CAR-Ts, bispecifics. Yeah. Here, I think it's not either or, but it's probably a together. Yeah, okay. To find out what is the best for the patient, and then you give the best possible combination. And that should include and will include also other modalities, in my view.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think if you can get rid of too many chemotherapy, this would help a lot.
Because at the end, I mean, you can, let's say, in theory, you can take a existing chemotherapy that works and just transform it into ADC, and it will be just, in theory, it has, I mean, in theory, it can be only better. In theory, at least.
Yes. But in theory, yes. And this has been tried, and it was found out that some of the conventional chemotherapies were not working.
Okay.
So that's why you needed to have somewhat more potent chemotherapies. But now, then again, you can increase the DAR, and then again, the whole empirical testing starts.
Okay. And how much time do you see that replacement happening? Because I mean, I guess a lot of the chemotherapy are also generic right now. So, and they are still in first line, especially in Europe. They're still in the first line. How do you see that? Like, what's kind of?
I think it's starting because if you remember ASCO this year, there were 2 studies already in head-to-head, where it was shown that ADCs could replace chemotherapy. I think this was the first evidence in clinical trials, and I think this is very remarkable. Yeah. And as you know, there are hundreds of clinical trials with ADCs. So I'm expecting really in the next few years that this new treatment will be established.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I think from what you said from ASCO, if I remember well, is that they showed that there could be first-line treatment, or there will be first-line.
And there are also PADCEV is first line now, together with PD-1. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's amazing. But I guess as always in pharma as well, until
it takes time.
It takes time. I guess especially in Europe, because I mean we talked to many guests about the reimbursement as well and how much you finance innovation. And in general, US finance much more, or are much more keen to pay for innovation. So I guess even that in Europe will take a bit more time. I guess 10, 15 years, something like this until...
I'm more optimistic.
You're more...
Yes.
Good. We'll see. It's hard to timelines over 5 to 10 years. It's good. One thing I also, what we just said, I wanted to get back to it is also on the spinning off or spinning out. I think actually, I mean, Switzerland is pretty good. I mean, ETH, of course, but also others. Yeah. I mean, and EPFL in Lausanne are also very good. I feel like just pretty good in terms of like making it happen. I'm just curious of like how, like, can you tell a bit more about it? Is it true? What's the main drivers there?
Yes, I think it also has evolved over the past 20 years or so in Switzerland. Everything has been more professionalized, the support, entrepreneurial thinking. If I see pitches now of really young talents, either PhDs, postdocs, they are really good. If I remember my first pitch together with Julian in 2005, 6, 7, at those times. We were really greenhorns. So I think that, and they see the role models, they see this exit, they ask me, others, people from molecular partners are also, I see them on many startup competitions, and so it's starting to evolve, and it has evolved. Yeah. And I think this helps to drive the whole community and startup scene.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I mean, at the end, you need like role models. Yeah. At the end, it's super important. And one thing I recently saw is that I think it's ETH is part of it. That what you said about like you spin out without knowing the terms. What I saw is that they tried to do some kind of like I don't know, was it guidelines or something to a bit more like standardize the terms and to be a bit more like, let's say, founder friendly versus more like. And first, like what I mean, I don't know if probably you know a bit more about it.
I also heard about this initiative, but I don't know how.
You don't know.
No, I was not following it.
Yeah, because I think if I remember well, was something like kind of defining the terms a bit more upfront of like, okay, like how much should the institution get, how much should the PI get, how much should the founders get, and something more reasonable. Yeah. And that's something, and also that something should go a bit faster. I don't remember the specific. I will probably link it in the episode. But what I saw is that it's like much better than some of the, like, let's say, competing university or other universities in Europe, where I heard some horror stories. And like even in Berlin, the first thing that comes to my mind is one startup in Berlin, and it took them like something like over 18 months to just get the IP. And then the terms were completely unrealistic, or something like whatever. The institute wanted like 40 or 50%, and it made no sense. I guess in your case, I mean, when you found it without having the terms, I guess you were kind of trusting also.
I was trusting, yeah.
And it worked out at the end, I guess, yeah.
Be optimistic, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's good to know, but because I think it's super important for spinning out. I mean, you always talk about all the like institutes. Yeah, we need to do more, more valorization, more innovation, more spinning out. And then in practice, when you look at the terms, if it doesn't make sense, it just doesn't make sense. And I even heard from an investor in France, like they were company builders, VC company builder, and they're saying still today they're talking to universities, and like sometimes the terms were just completely unreasonable, and they would just not even start the discussion. It's
exactly,
even if the technology is amazing, I would like, if there's some tech transfer offices listening, you can do better. Okay, that's good. And I think we've covered quite a lot. Maybe let's touch a bit on Switzerland as a whole, as a biotech industry. Obviously, you've been in it and you've seen a lot of things. I think it's quite it's very solid in terms of biotech and biopharma, especially when you report it to the number of people per capita is really amazing. I don't know, how do you, just general, more like, how do you look at it? Biotech in Switzerland, what did you see evolve?
I as I mentioned before, what I see is that still this entrepreneurial spirit, many more, or some people have it, and they see these role models, they have access to many people that they can get feedback and learn and chat. And I think this is then the result that some people then really found and are successful.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And in the more established companies, I'm just thinking about, and obviously the Roche Novartis, just came back from Basel. There's huge, but then you have also quite a lot of more like clinical stage companies. You're like Telion, now Idorsia, a bit struggling now, but some others are like, what do you, I don't know how, if you have some observation or some stuff you see there.
That's the default plan. That's also my advice when I was a startup coach. It's advisable that when you found a company, that you plan to really until phase 2, until completion of phase 2. So you need to be prepared, and you need to think already then, how many patients do I need? Because this will determine, the total amount of money, the number of people, at what stage you need, which capabilities, resources, everything. So you start actually from the end of phase 2, backwards to the start. And that's how it should be.
Okay. Yeah, you plan your efficacy study, your big milestone, like value inflection point, and then you go backwards. Yeah. And I guess if you get a really good deal in preclinical,
you make it opportunistic. Yeah.
I like that. I think that's also one thing that came up a lot in some of the episodes, was like, in biotech you want to have maximum optionality.
Yes.
And over time, and
that's probably what I would say in one sentence as a job description of a CEO. He has or she has to create options for the board and the shareholders, so that then we all together can decide.
Like Stefano for Azafaros, we just had the last episode in Basel. I think he's actually the same. Okay. That's my job as CEO, is to create options.
Yes.
And, I like that. Let's transition just to like quick fire, so more like quick question answer, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Some a bit more provocative questions, but let's see. Well, the first one is: will you create a third biotech?
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
For sure, not now.
Not now.
Yeah. Because I don't know whether people know. So Taiho is keeping Araris as an independent subsidiary.
Yeah.
So we can really develop now the molecules. We can make the pipeline. We can use now all the resources, the knowledge of the clinical development of Taiho. So it's really a lot of fun for the whole team at Araris.
That's good, yeah. And you have more resources, I guess, to do it and everything.
So that's why I
okay, it's not like they did acquire the assets and then
no.
It's really independent.
So sure, I will stay.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I was thinking, you never know what is in 20 years, right?
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
MK, why are you based here in Au? I think I don't know how you pronounce it in English, but at least in
Au.
Yeah, Au as well.
Yeah, Au.
I mean, except the Lakeview. I mean, most of the biotechs in Zurich are more in Schlieren or some on the ETH campus. Yeah. Why? How come you're here?
Yeah, I mean, we started in as many ETH spin-offs. We started at ETH, so we rented labs there. Yeah. But then after a certain period of time, you have to move on. Yeah. And as you said, in Zurich, it's the biotech park, which is based in Schlieren. Yeah. But there was no space when we had to leave ETH. Okay. So we were looking for alternatives and found here at the beautiful Lake of Zurich. Yeah.
I thought maybe it was to be closer to Zug, but
no.
Which is also just nearby. It's good. Well, opinionated, but who has the best ADC research? Europe, Japan, China, or the US?
I don't have all the insights to be able to answer this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
But Araris is not so bad.
It's good. Yeah. Actually, on this, so Ruben from Myrick said actually Europe is pretty good in ADC, especially with Astra and with Astra. It's actually quite a leader in the ADC space, and you have quite a few startups also, and some companies like ADC Therapeutics, I think they're in Lausanne. Yeah. But then he said something like that there's probably more ADC researchers in China than anywhere else in the world.
This is also my feeling. Yeah.
That's also true. Okay, yeah. But Japan is also really good. Yeah. And with Daiichi and with others. So. Okay. Some more personal question. One mistake you made in the past 12 months?
In the past 12 months?
Yeah.
I probably do mistakes every day. I don't.
You have a specific one?
So, I mean, as you're referring to the past 12 months, they were pretty good for Araris, I have to say, because we closed the deal with Chugai, with J&J, and then the acquisition, and we had also other options. So that was probably I did some fewer mistakes than I usually, or we as a team. But in general, I can maybe be more general. I think I grew up here in Switzerland and went here to school, and as a scientist, I have a scientist background. Yeah. At least in the beginnings, we had all the tendency, we make it perfect and then we go out and then we think it will be sold like this, but that's not the case. So that was one of the key learnings, so to speak, that you have to go out as quickly as possible to get feedback and then to make the evolution together with the outside world.
Yeah, I like that.
This is what
which is not that intuitive when you're a scientist. Yeah. So you think, I work on my small idea, I don't want to share it, and that's a good one.
And probably I did tons of mistakes with Japanese culture, which I'm not aware of. So you have to ask my Japanese colleagues.
They will never tell you, no. Or maybe after a few pints. Who is one of your European, if possible, biopharma heroes or a mentor that helped you a lot?
I was influenced probably by several people. Again, here I would like to, thinking back of my whole journey, is I was fortunate enough to make my PhD in the group of Dario Neri, who is really a pioneer of antibody fragments, fusion proteins. Okay. And when I was a PhD student, that was the time when one of the molecules where he was involved with his company went really to the patient. Okay. So and that was somehow also an eye-opener for me that you can really, it's possible
from the bench
to go to the patient, and that had a lot of influence.
Yeah, okay, that's amazing. And someone from the industry?
Yeah, I mean, he's now the CEO of Philogen.
Okay.
done in there.
Okay. Makes me think a bit about what is what the lab behind Micro Partners and behind Morphos, Plukman. What is it?
The Plukton, yeah.
Plukton, yeah. It's
I mean,
crazy
there are several. I mean,
because it's also antibody fragments and antibodies.
yes. I mean, there are also molecular partners with Covagen. We were on one hand competitors, but also very good colleagues, and we have a very good relationship. And I was following them all the time, and it's amazing what they have achieved. And also Glycart.
Yeah, very good.
Roche, with Pablo Magna, for example. All interesting personalities and good. Yeah. And there are many more.
Yeah, many. Again, a bit more personal question. What's one of your new habits that you adopted recently?
I mean, the 12 months were very intense, as you can imagine, because it was really almost in parallel, having signed Chugai, J&J, and acquisition, and some other options that I cannot speak about. So usually as a biotech, if you have just one achieved, it's already very good. And we had really almost in parallel. So the whole team, we did, I think, really an amazing job. Also together with the board and everyone. So this is then where I took also more care of myself and my family. So to really force myself to take free time, and this I keep on going, which is so this is probably or a more, not a completely new habit, but a more habit that I take, and this is very important.
Yeah, I like
and
that.
Very good.
Yeah, I like that. Makes me think that, especially as an entrepreneur, usually there's some phases as well, more intensity, a bit less intensity, and it's important to have the phases. Yes. You cannot last if you're always in full intensity.
Yes.
Again, a bit more opinionated, but what's one of the European, we mentioned a lot, but one of the European biotech that stands out to you? Another one that we haven't mentioned, maybe?
Some of them we have mentioned.
Yeah.
European.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously...
That impressed you recently or something? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I always liked, I mean, on one hand, we are competitors, but also if some of our competitors have very good results, it helps the whole industry. This is also what when the early days of Covagen, we together with molecular partners, we always cheered when they were successful. I mean, of course, we wanted to have the success as well, but immediately we got phone calls because we were in the same field. So it helps the whole field. So... And it was very amazing to see that some of the European ADC companies had lots of successes, right? For example, Synafix was acquired by Lonza, then Tubulis with
Tubulis. Dominic was on the show as well.
Yeah, big round, very good deals. So I think this is amazing. And some of the advisors that we had, Ulf Gravwunder, who was the founder of NB Therapeutics, another ADC company. So there are quite some examples that that I can mention here.
Yeah, it's good. It's I mean, there's definitely a lot of, and more good like European biotechs in Europe. It's really good to see. And early stage, later stage. I even have what impressed me is now you have really Argenx is a bit the outlier, but it's crazy. They made it all to the pay, to the market, fully owned, and I think it's $45 billion market cap or something.
Or Genmab.
It's insane, yeah. And BioNTech also, it's amazing, yeah. To finish, we mentioned, I think, a lot of takeaways and lessons, but do you have, maybe we can break it down in a few, but do you have one advice or another advice to, let's say, a PhD student who wants to spin out, or to yourself back in 2005?
Yeah, one thing that I mentioned is really to go out as quickly as possible. And the other thing is, but this is very difficult, is the perseverance. And this is not coming from me. I also heard some other founders and entrepreneurs. There is probably And also I think Steve Jobs mentioned this in an interview, that what he thinks that a successful entrepreneur distinguishes from a not so successful, if you can call it, is the perseverance, because he also says, and I can confirm, that it's very tough. You know, you get many no's, and then some things, even science, they don't work, you have to adapt. You get a lot of and so perseverance is something that you probably need to have. But then at the same time, you need to be very flexible and adapt to market. On one hand, you have to be very stubborn still, but also flexible. And that's the balance that is very tough. But still, probably perseverance is more important. And you cannot blame if somebody gives up or say, "Oh no, that's nothing for me," because it's really tough. So it can be tough.
Something we could discuss. Could talk for a long time, especially I think, maybe on this. But how do you? I think one thing with, as you said, perseverance and flexibility, or at least being super convinced and not changing too much, but also being flexible when it's need to be.
Yeah, the pivot. Yeah,
the pivot is really important. But on the perseverance, which I think is one thing that I find very difficult, is you want to persevere, but at the same time, unless you also want to be flexible or not. I mean, sometimes it's not the right idea you're working on, which is very hard to know. Where do you put the limits? But in general, I would say going a bit more towards perseverance is usually the right thing to do.
In general, but then also if you look also at other and many successful companies, they hardly ever start or were successful on the initial idea. So I think more than 70%, if you look at the statistics of public companies or multi-billion companies, they started with another idea. So pivot is also very important. But again, it's also
even in biotech, even when you have a tech, because in tech, in startup, is usually pivot all the time. But it's that's good. And maybe to finish, one advice to more a bit more experienced life science professionals, whatever, someone in his late 30s,
still young,
still
very young.
But not 25 PhD, maybe a bit more advanced. What's the one thing that comes to mind?
But again, probably this is the same. Believe in your vision, or remind yourself of your vision, and then go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Just go ahead. That's good. Cool. Great discussion. I think it's a good way to good finishing. So thanks a lot, Dragan.
Thank you, Philip.
Yeah, congrats again, the exit, and
thank you.
Yeah, cool,
pleasure.
I'm impressed by Dragan's track record of building and exiting biotechs. I'm also impressed by what he has been building with Araris in the ADC space. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit the like, follow, or review button. Any of these actions would help many more people discover the podcast. And if you want to go even further, you can make a donation by clicking on the link in the description below. We have plenty of similar videos on our channel, so please feel free to check it out. I would also be curious to hear what you think. So if you could leave a comment wherever you are, or shoot me an email at philip@Flot.bio. All right, thanks for watching to the end, and see you in the next episode.